36 gigs because I am collecting on literally every channel of Wi-Fi, and if there's stuff going on the network, then you have all the data as well, not just like the beacons, because Kismet collects it all. AeroDump collects it all. So how can I then take that PCAP and then look at it in a visual way, because who wants to look at it in the command line? That sucks. I mean, it's super cool, lead hacksaw, but like, who does not like pretty pictures, right? So, seriously, there is not a lot of non-corporate, non-licensed, open source information or tools that allow you to look at PCAPs beautifully. Like, you just can't open up some open source tool and it's like, okay, here's an entire graph of all the cool red team hacker stuff that you care about, right? There are blue team tools and SIMs and all kinds of things and gigantic, you know, government software that can take in terabytes of PCAP and show you, like, you know, waveforms of the PCAPs through graphs and charts and all this stuff. But for like your regular degular dude who's like trying to participate in the RFCTF, there's not something that like, that's like so accessible and ready to use that I can look at these PCAPs. So I started like, how can I look at this? What are tools that already exist? What is in the open source community, right? How can I take on something that's not so gigantic that I like quit halfway through because it's too hard to figure out, right? Baby steps. Crawl, walk, run. Pick a small problem and work up to the harder stuff. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. So, again, packets for Wi-Fi are not exciting. Like, there's not, well, there will be a representation of it, but now that you can make SSIDs with emojis in it at the command line, you're not going to see, you know, like silly faces. That's not going to be a thing at the packet level. Now, what is actually helpful? How can we actually look at this in a way that makes sense to not just me, but to another random person? So there are a few tools out there. I know how to use some of these tools a little bit, and I have used these tools such as Wireshark and Security Onion to do some blue team-like things. I have used AeroDump. I have used it for this competition. I have used Kismet for this competition. And it will collect and show you in a very basic way that data. Now, Splunk, I didn't want to have to figure out the license stuff. I didn't want to have to figure out how to write signatures. So that was a little too much to take on as a big bite. Elk, I really thought about it. I was like, man, this is open source. I can just read PCAPs in. I can maybe get some charts and graphs and try and do visual representations of that. I started on it. Again, it started getting too tough for me. I am not the smartest man in the world. So I had to move on. Kismet. It is a wireless tool that exists. It is open source. It is free and available to everybody right now. People are using it over on the other side of the room to collect all the PCAPs and all the packets right now. It has a basic view. But again, it's showing you everything. Kismet does have the ability to create customization, but I was not ready to be a web developer, so I didn't do that. AeroDump is just text, but it does show, from a red team perspective, what I want, but it's not customizable. There are flags and filters and things that you could possibly use, but still it's not really inspecting the PCAP. It's just giving you a visual representation of this is what is available in the airwaves. There is 6 access points. Some of them have WEP. Some of them have WPA2. Some of them have WPA3. Here's the crypto. Help yourself. I wanted to learn Python so bad to do really cool hacker things and use pandas, and I ran into an issue where when you're dealing with really large PCAPs, it's not doing like multi-threading, so it is just loading the entire thing into memory and crashing on me. And for some of it, It's real good, but my Python skills were not good enough for me to be able to determine whether or not it wasn't working because it didn't work or if it was me, which sometimes it's me. Wireshark, available to everybody. It has the ability to be customized, but only in the very specific ways that Wireshark will let you customize it, right? But it is accessible. It is easy. It is available to everyone, and it can represent stuff at the packet level that you may want to see. So I had the idea. Let's make Wi-Fi Shark. So I thought, what is it that I want to represent? What are the things that I want to show? I don't want everybody to try and have to remember what 7,000 different colors are, because there are 7,000 settings that you can do. So I wanted an easy win. And I want to do it from a red teamer RFCTF competitor perspective. What are the things that are specifically important to me? So, learn more Wireshark, make this profile that is useful. Again, no overcomplication. And then it needs to be an 80% solution, because not every single tool will do 100% of the things that you want it to do every single time. You have to use this tool sometimes to then a little bit use that tool to then get you the final thing out of this tool. It's a journey, right? And does it work in the real world? And I have a real world story for this. So, profiles. There are available online for Wireshark profiles for nearly everything. If you are a DNS person and you want to learn about your network's DNS because it's fallen over and you want to see what's going on. If you want to check your VLAN settings, it can do that for you. There are all kinds of profiles. I can't name them all. There are so many, you may Google it yourself. But I can change the columns, I can customize the colors, and I can make it easy for myself. And I'm going to be honest, if it's easy for me, it's going to be easy for everyone. Now, there are a few I found through Googling, like 6 802.11 Wi-Fi-ish profiles. But some absolute nerds decided that they would remember what the difference between light blue, dark blue, sort of blue, kind of blue, this other blue, and I am blue-green colorblind, so it's not very helpful. I am not saying that these profiles are useless. From some of the places that they're from, like the IPA and the MetaGeek profile, if you are a Wi-Fi installer and you are putting up new access points at an organization, it is going to be great for you to see that you actually installed that network correctly and it is doing the things that you think it is supposed to be doing, or it's not, and then you can fix it. So do not take from me that these are bad profiles. They are just not what I wanted to do, but they did have inside of them some rules and some configuration things that I could borrow, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. I have at my disposal PCAPs for the RFCTF going back to 2012. So I have PCAPs with the exact datas that I would want to do that would show me that my profile is working. And I had to use T-Shark and wait for hours for it to scale through a 25 gig PCAP to pull out like just the web packets. So that when I am troubleshooting, I have only just web packets, and when I'm like changing back and forth between the colors and seeing if a filter works for this and that it'll actually pop up and I'm not having to like wait 14.5 minutes for an 8 gig PCAP to load up into Wireshark. So, some of you may already be familiar with Wireshark, but it is That is I just installed it and I opened it with the HTML PCAP from Wireshark view, right? That is out of the box Wireshark. At the top, you've got some display filter. On the right side there is I call it the quick look. There's probably an official Wireshark name for it, but what I like it for is it'll show you over on the side if you have a coloring rule engaged that, oh hey, down lower there are some packets that you care about. Down at the bottom, we got additional data like the actual contents of the packet, and over on the right it's like the hex version of I have never needed to actually look at the actual like insides of the packet, so that is not important to me. Now, bottom right, if you were unfamiliar, that is the profile button. If you click that, it'll pop open and it'll say default, and it'll have like I think a Bluetooth one and something else straight out of the box. It is sometimes useful for that. Use it or lose it. Now, the colorization rules. This is the panel that pops open when you open the coloring rules. This is the basic default color rules for Wireshark. I just wanted to show you that you can pick different colors and you can make the text within a color different. So you can have 13 oranges and then inside of that have black text, red text, yellow text, orange text, green text. So it is something that I said I don't want to show so many things that it's unhelpful because there's too much you're looking at. These columns here at the top, when you're customizing a profile, you can make the columns longer, you can make them shorter, and it's essentially a display filter, but put into the column where it'll actually show just the particular things that you want to pull out of the PCAP data area. So, what matters to me, the red teamer? I keep saying it, I do not wish to reinvent the wheel. There are other tools, but I'm not going to just make another Kismet. Now, from a red team perspective, and because I've used it, I've used AirCrack. These are the things that are important to me when I want to hack your Wi-Fi. I mean, the competition Wi-Fi. I can't do it unless I have permission. I'm sorry. So, up at the top, it's telling us a channel, it's telling us how long things are going, it's telling us the BSSID, encryption, cipher. Up at the top, it'll tell if you've grabbed a handshake, it'll tell you that a handshake was caught. But if you've caught like 33 handshakes, it only says the one. There's just more in the PCAP, and it's not displaying it. At the bottom is it's called a station, but it's all the devices that are present that are not an actual access point, and they'll actually show whether or not they're connected to one of the Wi-Fi access points or if they're not connected. That is important to me, but not at this exact moment. Kismet, again, does something very similar. So these are things that are important to us. Again, channels, BSSID, ESSID, signal strength, all these types of things. So again, when I'm collecting on literally every channel. And that's in 2.4, 5 gigahertz. So there is so much data coming in. As you see on some of these tables over here, with the 97,000 antennas stuck into this, we are collecting everything on every channel. Your PCAPs become large. So, the issues that I ran into, starting from gigantic PCAPs. System RAM. I want you to know that Wireshark loads up a PCAP into memory. If you don't have 80,000 gigs, you can't open up giant PCAPs. And then you start spiking in your memory usage and your CPU usage, and it's just an absolute pain. Python, I couldn't pull stuff apart because I didn't have the Python. I need more RAM. So, while I was having the hardest time in the world, I found this article where somebody was like, if you're using this many gigabytes in your PCAP, you're going to want to have this much memory. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be hard. And it sucked. You need a lot of RAM. I keep saying that because I was crashing my system constantly. So, T-Shark became helpful, running, like it's essentially running a display filter, except via the command line, and you can write out to another PCAP. The idea for going through this was to have PCAPs smaller than a gig, but still contain things that were of use. Come to find out, not every single packet contains the same data that would be visually useful. And that was very hard for me because when you're opening it up, you wanted it to look like arrow dump. You wanted it to show like, oh, when I open up this, it's going to show for every single packet that this is WPA2. Well, not every single packet contains that data. So, the hard part. There are over 3,000 individual possible Wireshark filters for 802.11. Some of them are vendor specific, some of them are by version, and there'd be something like, oh, that might be useful. Oh, no, that was only available for version 1 through 3. Wireshark is like on now version 6. So that sucked. Every single one of them start with WLAN, so you have to remember to put that in or it's not going to find what you want. You can filter. There used to be one that you could do by antenna, and that turned out to be a nightmare because then all your PCAPs won't be there, or all your packets won't be there when you filter it, because I caught different things on different antennas because I had 63 of them, right? And so much more. This is an example of the page, right? Something is only available from, let's see, which one is that? Antenna was only available from version 1 to 1.6. Some things are available from 2 to 4. Some things are available only from 1 to 4, or one, like you have to know when you're looking at this page what you are looking for and if it even still exists for you to use. Also, unsigned integer. That's as much information as it gives you. Sure, what does that mean? That made me so mad because when I was looking up WEP, I said so many cuss words that you could tell I used to be a sailor. So, fuck WEP. But it's important for this game, right? Yes, I know. WEP is essentially 90% deprecated in 90% of the world, but we're still running it here at the RFCTF because as far as like learning to walk through, figuring out how to hack things and troubleshooting, or not troubleshooting, but diagnosing what it is and what security it is so that you know the correct attack to perform, you will, every single person that's ever said WEP is easy that has participated in this RFCTF has not solved WEP. That's all I'm going to say. Going through this, I found the section where I could figure out how to do WEP by getting down to the low levels in a packet, and I would make 13 different color filters, and I would load up the PCAP and then turn on all the filters to see if they would even show up. And sometimes they would, and sometimes I wouldn't, and I couldn't figure out if it was me, I couldn't figure out if it was Wireshark, so that was a pain. I learned through Googling that, and you will find out in all your RF adventures with Wi-Fi, that Wi-Fi is cool in blocks of time. It was cool in 2008, it was cool in like 2012, so you're gonna find blog posts that are absolutely the most useful, and I mean, they are being verbose, and they are showing you all the greatest things ever. from 2008, and it's now no longer something you can use. That was the most frustrating thing ever. But then I found this one blog that had like this Cisco information on it. I'm down in WLAN RSN world trying to figure out how this works with unassigned integer. And come to find out, I needed to put in there RSN GCS. But what does that even mean? Because that's also unassigned integer, right? The group cipher suite from the robust security network, I was not asking Wireshark correctly to show it to me because it needed an additional field filled out. So here it is here. Hey, look at that, rsn.gcs.OUI. OUI. So on this blog, it told me what the OUIs meant. The one blog. Wireshark doesn't tell you this. This isn't in their wiki. This was on this one random page from 2006 that was useful to me. So mad. So as you see, you can either do OUI 1, OUI 5, because hey, guess what? There are 6 different ways to configure WEP in their security methods. Because over time in the 802.11 standard, as they were like, well, that got owned, let's make it this way. Well, that got owned, let's make it this way. Well, that got owned, let's do it this way. And that's also why in Air Replay, there are 8 different things for you to do to hack WEP. It's not just the one, it's not just DAuth, right? So, as I was saying earlier, not every packet contains the exact information that you want. So it's not going to, like arrow dump, show you pretty, this is WEP and it is 140, right? You can have an entire PCAP, like if you are in the middle of nowhere and the only thing you have is the one router and it's WEP and you collect on that router, if you open it up in my profile, not every single line says that it's WEP. And that baffled me because I don't have the 802.11 standard memorized and why one data field of the PCAP contains that and not another. Like I said before, 5 million useless items on the internet for Wi-Fi, and that was frustrating. And that is why we're trying to populate, self-plug the RFHS wiki so that we can put stuff in there that is current. And then we have the entire community helping us out so that it's not some random blog from 2006 that's helping. It's us helping each other. And I had to sometimes find stuff that only kind of sort of worked for me, right? That I could then take that information to find the next piece of information to use that. I spent way too much time trying to figure out WEP. It was, I mean, when I did the WPA2, it took me like 5 minutes because that's the current thing and everybody knows how to do it and it would just show up, right? Why is WEP so important? It's not important, but it's important if it's there and you want to crack it, hack it, and you look at the packets for it, right? An 80% solution. No one has ever released perfect code, software, operating systems, video games. I mean, every single video game that you've ever gotten recently has a day 1 patch. Nobody ever releases perfect, so I had to have a talk with myself. I'm not going to have the perfect profile the second I release it to GitHub. So I got it to 80%. I was very confident that I had it in a great place. And then I got a phone call. Woody, one of the staff members on our team, who does weird things for weird people in weird places and collects stuff in, like just does a ton of collection, said, hey man, I'm out at, yada, yada, yada with these people here, and we are looking through this PCAP, and we are having the worst time ever. And I'm like, oh, what kind of PCAP? And he's like, Wi-Fi. I said, oh, that is, perfect timing. I just happen to have this Wi-Fi profile. So, between friends, we did a pinky promise NDA that he wouldn't like then share it to like the world after I gave it to him. And he loaded up into Wireshark, and he called me 5 minutes later and said, "Oh, we found the thing." So they were spending hours looking for that one cool thing, because in default mode in Wireshark, it is not very helpful to you. So it's now been used in the real world. I have a perfect use case. It actually works, right? This is also a self-plug. All our theme this year is Ghostbusters, except we're RF Busters. And all the art in my presentation and all the art for all our RF Busters stuff was done by my personal friend, Digitism. If you need art done, look her up. She does awesome freaking work. So, I know I had death by PowerPoint, but here we go with the demo, right? I wanted to, in all fairness, I was always going to release this Wireshark profile and always do this demo, but I just, this is my therapy session. I just wanted to bitch about how much of a terrible time I had getting here, right? So, here it is. Out of the box, default Wireshark. This PCAP contains all kinds of useful stuff. I know I T-sharked it all out. I know for a fact that this PCAP contains information pertinent to playing the game. If you're participating and you're trying to look for something, this would show you it, except the default one doesn't. It is absolutely devoid of useful information. In my opinion, from a person that hacks the Wi-Fi's, this is not useful to me. I mean, yes, it does say in some of the info fields that it's like WCTF like 03, right? Back when we were called WCTF 03, or back when we were the wireless CTF. Sure, that is fine, but now I have to go up into the filter area and find exactly what I'm looking for that's going to be useful. So let's go down. Let's go down to this little fancy button right here. Oh, look at that. This thing is filled with useful information. Green is WEP. I got it to work. So I got the coloring rules to work. But as you see over here in these cool encryption, cipher, and authentication fields, again, not every single packet contains and says, through doing it through the column and through the filtering, it will not display that it is WEP. In some packets it will, and we'll get there. This is also WEP, and it shows it. And that's why I was angry, because the Greenwood would show that it's WEP and have nothing in the auth field. This one is also WEP, but shows it in the cipher and auth field. Hey, are my replays working? It shows up in gray. You'll know if you can open this up if you're live capturing, and you can actually see in your neighborhood if somebody's just absolutely de-authing the entire area. It'll all show up as gray. What else do I care about? Handshakes. These are all the handshakes. 1, 3, 4, 2, all of them. It's immediately visible via the shortcut quick look that I like. And it's black because it's very standoutish in this Wireshark filter area. Again, I left some white in here to show that every single packet does not always contain the exact things that you think they're going to see. And when I was T-sharking things down and just pulling out only like 200K to test, there was nothing in it for me to do. None of my colors would work, none of my filters would work, nothing, because those packets for that access point at that time did not contain that data. So I would spend an hour on that and then look at the next 200K and like look at the news no, let's jump this up to a gig. Oh, something's finally showing up, right? Now, if I can see this, I'll open on my other page. At this moment, there are not very many things in here. But every single one of these is part of a challenge in this room, and that is Wi-Fi hacking. I didn't grab any of the blue ones. The blue ones are important for people in here. They want to know if one of these access points is doing blue. It would help them a lot to know if one of the access points was blue. A lot. Like there is a very specific thing that you have to do if it's blue. So, that was 30 minutes. I've got an hour. Questions. I know there's always questions because I'm not always super clear. Absolutely. It's important. Actually, it literally says it in that filter what it is. Yeah. Other questions about Wireshark and Wi-Fi filters? Do not be shy. I do not buy. Go ahead. So, funny story. The RFHS Village has a GitHub. Right before I walked on stage, I get pushed. This filter is available right now. It is called Wi-Fi Shark under the RFHS wiki, or not wiki, I'm sorry, GitHub. Our wiki is also in our GitHub. Other questions from the audience? You be very careful with your question. It is not currently. It will. I have a lot of things that I have to do besides updating the wiki, but you can update the wiki and get points if you're participating in the RFCTF. I'll even give you the address to the web page. What else we got? I know there's questions. Do not be shy. We're here to learn. This is literally why we're here in this village. I'm the orange. I work on the back of the tables. What else we got? Yes, ma'am. So, part of this was visualization. I wanted to make it so that at a quick glance, like I'm not going to get a pretty graph. I knew that wasn't going to happen with Wireshark, right? I wanted to see that quick look area and see that there was green, and I could click immediately down there and jump into something. Through the standard way, I would have to go through every single peak, every single line to go looking for what I want to do, or find the specific filter. No, go ahead. So, and that's why I've released the code, because I can continue updating it, and it's not specific. In order to put the filter that goes into that column, it only displays very specific information. And I've got it to show up in some of them. But based on the standard, some of them just do not contain that data. Sure. All right, what else we got? There's a guy with a Wi-Fi hat. You have no Wi-Fi questions? He doesn't know that I'm talking to him. All right, cool. What else do we got? I can't stand up here and ramble for another 30 minutes. Don't threaten me with a good time. Oh, yes. So, funny story. I thought about training for not just looking at PCAPs, but like feeding it information to do like air replay rules, right? Or air replay commands to like attack a network. It wasn't just, it was like, you know, based on this, if you see this and this, then perform this action. Could it be done? Yes. Someone smarter than me is going to have to do it. I'm not AI proficient. There's a reason why I'm our noob whisperer. It took me a long time to figure out a lot of this by trial by fire, and I had to learn at such a low level that I'm able to explain to somebody who's never opened up the command line. And oh, I could help someone do it, but if you're volunteering, I'll be happy to send you. Well, I'd have to anonymize some of the data in it just for privacy reasons, but if somebody wants to do that project, I'll be happy to help, but I could not take that on myself. It's for the same reason I didn't choose a lot of those other ones. I didn't want to select something that I had to get so involved and in depth with it that I would be able to do a career change. Like, not that I don't want to be an AI modeler. I just think that the problems I would encounter would be, I don't know if it's it or me. And then I would just get frustrated and quit. Because I quit trying to use Python and pandas and all that stuff. If there's nothing else, I will get back to drinking booze. Yes. So that is in some of the columns. Oh, the name of the coloring rule. I will be happy to talk about that, and we can make some. I don't know that we can do it up on the screen because it's small. You are welcome to come up here.
It's a great way to help professionalization.
Because everything's up there and not on the screen. I'm not mirrored. We'll do it after. I can push more code.
It's really cool.
I don't know everything about Wireshark, and this person goes to all the Wireshark fests, so I will be happy to. We all don't know everything, and we all help each other. And that's also why I'm giving out this Wireshark profile, right? If it makes what you do a little bit easier, then I've already won, right? Yes. Yes. It is not as fancy as just putting it in the top in the filter area. There are a lot of flags and syntax that you have to use, and trying to Google through using that is also a pain, and I am sorry. But together, we could probably write some of that up better on our wiki than it is available out in the real world. I mean, I have lists of things that are problems that I'm having as a Wi-Fi hacker, right? I took on this one. I am going to be doing other visualization things. I may actually try and do the elk stack or security onion stuff. You know, like it was small wins up to what I'm trying to do in the end state. But T-Shark, and it's not a T-Shark class, but you know, it's T-Shark-S-T-U, like it gets long and complicated, and that was a fight as well that I didn't completely complain about, but it is also a complaint. Anybody else? I'll be happy to answer more questions. The code's available. You can download it now. Or not code, but the profile's available now. You are more than welcome to PR that and contribute. And we will pull. We do not turn down good information. If you have an idea, we will be more than happy to. This is not mine. This is ours now. Right? I just push the ball a little bit to get it going. We can make it better because there are people who bring different kind of skill sets to the table that have worked on something and can add on to it. And if you add just one thing, then thank you. Is that it? Because I'm good to go. I'm ready to get back to that whiskey. Thank you so very much for coming. Thanks for all your questions, and thanks for participating. Nobody on the RFCTF side download this at all. It is so not helpful.